Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. Sorry about being late. Oh, goodness, I thought I had the wrong building and then the wrong unit, and okay. So, I'm here. Everyone has their folders in front of them. If you can, please open those up. We have another SCP to go over today, of course. We'll hop right into it unless anybody has any questions. Perfect. Today we're going to be going over SCP-067. Object Class, Safe. Special Containment Procedures list: when not in use or the subject of study, the SCP is to be stored in its felt-lined wooden box. The nib is to be corked, and all art and writings are to be submitted to the SCP Research Command for analysis and further experimentation. Description: SCP-067 is a fountain pen made by a German supply company called Pelican at some point between World War I and World War II. It is pale green in color with a single red line going straight down along the side. The shell is oak and the nib is extremely sharp, capable of piercing human skin if pressed even lightly. Though it apparently lacks a reservoir, the nib never appears to run out of fresh ink. In addition, the pen writes in iron gall ink, which is suitable for artists but would normally corrode typical fountain pens quickly. Research has surmised that any subject holding the SCP loses all autonomy of the hand and arm that grasps it. Full sensation is intact, but the arm below the elbow is controlled by unknown forces, theoretically centralized within the SCP. One effect is that the controlled hand will start to use the pen to write detailed biography of the individual holding the pen. The biography will include such information as the person's age, name, date of birth, criminal record, fears, and etc. Other times the pen has been known to write such things as an occurrence that happened in the person's lifetime. For example, when the test subject 1204M held the SCP, he began to write a detailed record of a motor vehicle accident that he had been in the year before. Later, the subject admitted that many details the pen wrote out in the account were not readily available to him at the present time. The subject had forgotten many elements present in the written work, including the previous car's license plate number, the other vehicle's color, and so on. The subject stated that his memory of the event was so fresh in his mind during the transcription that he could taste the blood in his mouth. Subjects holding the SCP have also been known to create intricate works of art, despite the subject lacking any formal art training or previous tendencies towards drawing. For example, test subject 1102F, a young woman with no previous artistic experience. She was able to draw a winged creature resembling SCP, described by her researchers' present data as. When subjects are asked to explain what happens when they hold the SCP, the typical response is that the subject freely relinquishes control of their appendage to the SCP so that it may complete its work unimpeded. Despite being instructed to not draw or write, subjects describe feelings of empathy, admiration, and cooperation with the SCP that coerces them toward and not toward their own will. Quoted response -01. I don't really know how to explain it. It just kind of happened. When I picked up the pen, it seemed though as my hand wasn't my own anymore. I knew I could move it if I wanted to, but I chose not to because I loved the picture it was drawing. It was like my hand had life. Suddenly my hand stopped and I realized I had complete control over my hand again, and I put the pen back down. I looked at the drawing and saw how beautiful it was. I guess the pen decided it was done, and it was finished with me. Tests and experiments. On 2000, a test was done to see how the pen affected living creatures other than human beings. Experiment 001. The test subject, a male rhesus macaque monkey, aged 2 years and 4 months, who had previously learned how to use pens and markers, was placed in a standard psychological surveillance room, neutral wall coloration, and one-way observable mirrors. With the SCP a work table, and a pad of paper. The subject picked up the SCP in his left foot, then took it in his right hand, and then tasted it. Subject then put the pen down on the paper and smelled it. After 30 seconds, the subject picked up the SCP again and began tapping it repeatedly on the table. The subject also began tapping the SCP on his own body. The subject tapped the SCP with increasingly force until ink was being splattered on his fur. Subject then threw the SCP onto the floor. Subsequent mechanical analysis revealed no damage. At this point, the subject tore a page in the pad of paper and began rubbing the ink from its fur onto the paper. This continued for 3 minutes, after which the subject clutched the page in its teeth and leaped from the work table onto the lids of the observation mirror. With such force that the table was knocked over. Subject began smearing ink from the paper onto the observation mirror while making repeated vocalizations. Subsequent analysis revealed that 50% of the vocalizations were consistent with typical distress. Vocalizations from the rhesus macaque monkey were also 50% unfamiliar. After 6 minutes of smearing ink on the observation mirror, the subject began tearing the page with his teeth and claws, but dropped it before destroying 20% of the paper. Subject then collapsed on the floor, breathing rapidly and repeating the unfamiliar, atypical vocalizations. Subject's handler reports that once removed from the psychological surveillance room, the monkey's mood improved rapidly. The subject was then closely observed for 2 months following the experiment, but did not repeat atypical vocalizations. The sheet of paper was filed away and that's all we have for today. Thank you everyone for coming. We're going to have a sign-up sheet if you guys want to be test subjects for this SCP, as it's known as SAFE. So I know what we talked about might be a little dangerous to some people, and that's completely okay. But we've run out of D class for the month, so feel free to sign up. I doubt it could hurt you that much. Maybe they can show you a thing or two. So if you want to, the sign-up table is right up here, okay? Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good day.